What ideas are you fighting for in your organization, in your association, even if you have a solo practice? What ideas are you fighting for? What do you stand for, and what are you against? Where do you draw that line in the sand? What's the compelling why behind your organization, your business, your profession? And what are you the most of? Not the biggest, not the best, but are you the friendliest? Are you the funniest? Are you the most family-oriented? What are you the most of? And articulating that is, I think, a really productive conversation inside any organization. One thing to think about here, a little corollary, is that increasingly the big ideas behind the best organizations contain higher ideals. The business world really has woken up to this idea that their responsibility extends beyond profits into the wider world and society and the planet. And there's so much experimentation and creativity around how can business be a positive force for change. And it's not just because there's this exploding market for all things green and good, that is part of it, but it's also because people increasingly are looking inside and saying, what's worth my life? Do I want to post-rationalize a career spent striving with retirement and some, service in my retirement? People increasingly want to be called up. They don't want to so much work for you or for a company as they want to work on something meaningful, something important, something that might change the world. And the second question that is very related to this first one about what ideas are you fighting for is, are you really who you say you are? It's one thing to craft this beautiful statement of purpose in soaring language, and it's another thing to sort of live it day in and day out, to match up behavior to belief. We, as psychologists, that's the hardest thing in the world for all of us to do. So how do you sort of brutally, transparently ask and answer that question? Are you really who you say you are? Take Patagonia. We all know the outdoor clothing maker who, was founded on the sort of dirtbag values of Yvon Chouinard, now a $400 million brand that's dedicated to the mission of inspiring and implementing solutions to the environmental crisis, not making clothes. That's their mission. But, of course, being a clothing maker, they are an incredibly resource-intense business, and everything they do and all their processes kind of contribute to that problem they're trying to alleviate. So I talked to the CEO there, Casey Sheehan, and he just says to me point blank, look, we're dirty. We admit it. Everything we make pollutes. There's no such thing as a sustainable company. Well, there is such thing as a company that is so transparent, so sort of refreshingly out there and open with every impact that it is making in the world, that it becomes part of the conversation. They launched something called the Footprint Chronicles, which is sort of like a corporate social responsibility report on steroids a few years ago, and it's become kind of the state of the art when it comes to telling your story in a way that engages all of your constituents in an honest, open conversation. And that approach has translated into how they talk to each other inside the organization. They think of it as sort of a no-secrets environment. If we're not wrestling honestly with the hard questions inside the organization, then we're not going to be able to do that outside the organization. And that seamlessness between who Patagonia is at home and who they are in the marketplace is, I would suggest, incredibly healthy.